It was raining again. In Ireland, rain was not news. But that day, the rain felt heavier, colder, lonelier. Margaret stood by the small window of her kitchen, looking at the gray sky. Her tea had gone cold, but she didn't notice. Her hands were shaking slightly, but not from age, from what she was reading. A short message on her phone. "Mum, I've decided to stay in Dublin with Anna. We'll start a new life there. Please don't worry about me." That was all. No, "I love you." No, "I'll visit soon." Just that one message. Her heart sank. For 30 years, she had lived in a small village near Galway. She had raised her son alone after her husband died in a car accident. She worked as a nurse, day and night, saving other people's lives, and dreaming that one day her son, Liam, would have a better one. And now, he was gone. Margaret sat down slowly. Her chair creaked. The house was silent, except for the soft rain tapping against the window. She looked at the empty chair across from her, the one where Liam used to sit when they had Sunday breakfast together. She remembered his laughter, his teenage arguments, his messy hair in the mornings. She smiled through tears.
"He was all I had," she whispered. For a few days, she tried to stay busy. She cooked, she cleaned, she watched old shows. But the silence in the house grew heavier each day. When she went to the local shop, people asked, "How's Liam? Still workin' in Dublin?" She smiled politely and nodded. Yes, he's fine. But inside, she was breaking. One evening, Margaret walked along the coast. The wind was cold and waves crashed loudly against the rocks. She stopped and whispered, "Maybe I did too much for him. Maybe I didn't let him grow." Tears rolled down her face. Or maybe he just forgot who I am. She felt useless, forgotten, empty. But life, in strange ways, never leaves us empty for long. A few days later, while Margaret was at the market, she saw an old man sitting on the ground near the church. His hands were shaking, and he looked cold. People passed him by. Something in her heart moved. She stopped, bent down, and asked softly, "Are you all right, sir?" The man looked up. His eyes were tired but kind. "Just a bit hungry, miss. Haven't eaten since yesterday." Margaret hesitated. She didn't have much herself. Her pension was small, but she couldn't just walk away. "Come with me," she said gently. "Let's get you some warm soup." They went to a small cafe nearby. The man smiled when the food came. He ate slowly, with gratitude. "You're very kind," he said. "People don't usually stop." Margaret smiled faintly. "I know what it feels like, to be invisible." The man looked at her. "Invisible?" She nodded. "My son, he left. I don't blame him, but it's strange, isn't it? You spend your life giving love, and one day, poof, it's gone." The old man nodded. "Love never really disappears. Sometimes it just changes form." Margaret didn't understand fully, but something in his tone felt comforting. When they finished, he said, "My name's Patrick. Thank you for the meal, Margaret." She was surprised. "How do you know my name?" He smiled. "You told the waitress when you paid." She laughed for the first time in weeks. From that day, Patrick became part of her mornings. He always sat near the same bench by the church, reading an old newspaper.
She started bringing him tea or a sandwich. They would talk about weather, memories, music, life. Patrick told her he used to be a teacher. He lost his wife years ago and had no children. He said, "Sometimes I feel like I'm just waiting for the end." Margaret looked at him and replied softly, "Maybe the end is just another beginning." They both smiled. Days turned into weeks, and for the first time since Liam left, Margaret felt needed again. She found herself cooking extra soup just in case Patrick stopped by. She cleaned the small garden. She even started knitting again. Then, one afternoon, as she was walking back from town, she saw a car parked in front of her house. A young woman stepped out, tall, elegant, with a nervous smile. "Hello, are you Mrs. O'Brien?" "Yes," Margaret said carefully. "I'm Anna," the woman said softly. "Liam's girlfriend." Margaret froze. Her heart started beating faster. Anna looked at her with guilt. "I know I shouldn't just show up, but Liam is working a lot, and he doesn't talk about you much. I thought you deserved to know." Margaret crossed her arms. "Know what?" Anna hesitated. "He's struggling, more than he admits. He lost his job 2 months ago. He's trying to find something new, but he's too proud to ask for help. He said he doesn't want to disappoint you." Margaret felt her eyes fill with tears again. "Disappoint me? He's my son. I just wanted him to be happy." Anna nodded. "He's not. He's lost. I told him to call you. He didn't listen." Margaret took a deep breath. "Thank you for telling me." When Anna left, Margaret sat down in the same chair again, but this time the silence was different. It wasn't heavy. It was full of thoughts. She wanted to call Liam, but something inside her whispered, "Wait. Let him come when he's ready." Instead, she went to see Patrick the next morning. He was sitting on his usual bench, smiling as she approached. "You look different today," he said. Margaret smiled. "Maybe I am. I realize something. Sometimes when we lose someone, it's not forever. It's just a pause." Patrick nodded. "Yes, love needs space to find its way back." They sat quietly, listening to the church bells. That evening, when Margaret came home, she found a small envelope under her door. It was from Dublin. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a short note. "Mum, I'm sorry. I should have called. I miss you every day. Can I come home for a weekend?" Tears streamed down her face. She whispered, "Yes, my son. Always." She smiled, looking out the window. The rain had stopped. The sky was pink with evening light. It felt like the first calm day in months. Margaret didn't know what would happen next, but she finally understood what Patrick meant. Love never disappears, it just changes form. It was Saturday morning. The sea was calm that day, a soft silver mirror under the early sun. Margaret stood by her window again, but this time her hands were steady. On the table was a small bouquet of wildflowers and 2 plates for breakfast. Her son was coming home. She had barely slept that night. She kept checking the clock, listening for a car on the gravel road. When she finally heard the sound of tires, her heart jumped. She ran to the door, opened it, and there he was. Liam. Older than she remembered. Tired, a bit thinner, but still her boy. For a moment, they both just stood there. Then, without a word, she stepped forward and hugged him. Tight. Long. The kind of hug that says everything words can't. "Mum," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry." She held his face in her hands. "You're home. That's all that matters." They sat in the kitchen, just like before. Margaret poured tea, and Liam smiled when he saw the jam she had made from blackberries, his favorite since childhood. For a while, they ate in silence. Then Liam said, "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to prove I could do it. You worked so hard for me. I thought if I could make it on my own, you'd be proud." Margaret smiled softly. "Liam, I was proud the day you were born. You don't have to prove anything." He looked down. "I lost my job, Mum, and then I lost myself. I didn't know who to call. I didn't want to sound weak." "Calling home is not weakness, Liam. It's love." He nodded, eyes full of tears. Later that day, she took him for a walk along the cliffs. The air smelled of salt and wildflowers. They didn't talk much. The silence between them was peaceful now, not heavy. When they returned, a familiar voice greeted them. "Good afternoon, Margaret." It was Patrick, sitting on his bench near the church. He waved cheerfully. Margaret smiled. "Patrick, this is my son Liam." Patrick stood up slowly, extended his hand. "Nice to meet you, young man." Liam shook it, curious. "My mom talks about you." Patrick laughed. "I hope only good things." They sat together, 3 generations of souls who had all lost something and were slowly finding their way back. Patrick told stories about his days as a teacher. Liam listened, smiling, sometimes asking questions. Margaret watched them, her heart warm. She realized something. The pain she felt had connected her to another lonely soul, and maybe, through kindness, she had created a small chain of healing. When they said goodbye, Patrick looked at Liam and said, "Take care of your mother. She's got a big heart. Don't let it carry all the weight alone." Liam nodded. "I won't." That night, Margaret and Liam sat by the fire. The flames danced, painting gold light on their faces. Liam asked, "Do you ever feel like life is just slipping away?" Margaret thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but then I remember, even small things matter. A kind word, a warm meal, helping someone, it all adds up. It keeps us human." He looked into the fire. "I think I forgot that in Dublin. Everything there is about success, money, the next promotion. I stopped seeing people." She smiled gently. "Maybe that's why you needed to leave, to remember what's real." They stayed up late, talking, laughing, remembering. The next morning, Liam helped her fix the old garden fence. They painted it white again like it used to be. Margaret couldn't help but laugh when he accidentally dropped the brush on his shoes. "Still the same messy boy," she said. "And you're still the same mum," he replied. That afternoon, Patrick came by. He looked pale, weaker than usual. Margaret noticed right away. "Patrick, are you all right?" "Just a bit tired," he smiled. "Old age, you know." They invited him in for tea. He sat quietly, listening to their conversation, smiling softly. When he stood up to leave, he said something Margaret would remember forever. "You know, I used to think I was forgotten, but today I realized something. When someone remembers you, even for a cup of tea, you are alive again." Margaret hugged him. "You'll never be forgotten, Patrick." The next morning, the church bells rang earlier than usual. Margaret looked out the window and saw people gathering. Her heart sank. She knew. Patrick had passed away during the night, peacefully, in his sleep. Tears filled her eyes. She went to the church, placed wildflowers on the small table by his photo. Liam stood beside her, holding her hand. "He wasn't family," Liam whispered. "He was," she said quietly. "He became family." Days went by, and the house felt quieter again. But this time, the silence was warm, full of memories, not emptiness. Liam decided to stay for a few weeks. He helped around the house, cooked dinner, even started helping at the local shop. The villagers, who hadn't seen him in years, welcomed him like a lost son. One evening, they walked by the coast again. The wind was soft, the sky full of pink light. Liam said, "You know, Mom, I think I want to move back here. Maybe start something small, a cafe or a workshop. I don't need Dublin to feel alive." She smiled. "Home isn't a place, Liam. It's where your heart feels at peace."
He nodded. Then my heart is here. That night, Margaret sat by the fire alone, thinking of Patrick. She could almost hear his voice. Love never disappears, it just changes form. And she finally understood it completely. Patrick's kindness had changed both of them. His presence had filled her loneliness. His absence now filled her with purpose. She opened her notebook, something she hadn't done in years, and began to write. This story is for those who feel forgotten, for those who gave love and lost it, for those who wait for someone to come home. Remember, what you give always returns, sometimes in ways you don't expect. She looked at the last line, smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Patrick." When Liam came in, she closed the notebook and smiled. "Mum, what are you writing?" "Just a story," she said softly. "Our story." He hugged her gently. "Maybe one day someone will read it and remember to call their mother." He joked. She laughed, wiping a tear. That would be the best ending. Outside, the rain began again, soft and calm like an old friend. But this time, Margaret didn't see it as sadness. It was life, washing everything clean. When you give love, to your child, to a stranger, to the world, it never disappears. It may leave, change shape, or come back to you years later, but it always finds its way home. On this channel, we learn English through stories, and we grow one story at a time. Subscribe and let's get 1% better every day, together.